Hey everybody, so today's video is on consequences. This was actually a topic that was part of my original list of topics that I wanted to cover when I first started doing the videos, and I never got around to doing it, but it's been coming up a lot lately, so I'm feeling like the time is right to get to it now. So if you've seen the post I put up this morning, it said there are 3 questions that you need to ask yourself before making a decision, okay? Because everything that you choose to do and everything that you choose not to do comes with its own set of consequences, okay? And the consequences are not necessarily the same for everybody, which is why it's important for you to ask yourself these questions before you go and make the decision, okay? So I'm going to use teenagers as an example. So if there's any teenagers watching, this one's for you, okay? So say you're out with your friends and your curfew is at 10 o'clock. And one of your friends says, go on, turn your phone off and stay out. Turn your phone off, tell your ma your phone went dead, and stay out a little bit later. And go home at 11. Tell her you didn't know the time, right? So you're thinking, your first question should be, okay, what are the consequences of me doing this? Okay? So your consequences might be, you might have a very strict parent. Your consequences might be that you're grounded for a week, or that your curfew gets brought down to 9 o'clock in future until you show that you're responsible enough to come home on time. The consequences might be that you don't get your homework done because you were meant to go home and do it within that hour, and now you're going to go home and go straight to bed, and you'll have to get up and do it in the morning. So you have to be sure of what are the consequences for me if I make this decision, okay? Now, your friend might turn around and say, go on, I do it for you. But the consequences for that person might not be the same as the consequences for you, because their parents might be very lenient, and their parents might not mind if they come home a little bit late, and they might have got their homework done earlier on and don't have to worry about that later. So it's all well and good listening to other people and what they think is the right thing to do, or them saying, go on, I do the same for you. But the consequences are not the same for them. So the first question is, what are the consequences for me if I make this decision? Okay? The second question is, am I prepared to deal with the consequences? Okay? So that extra hour out having a bit of fun with your friends, that seems appealing, doesn't it? Sure, I'm going to get another hour out hanging around and having a bit of laugh or whatever you're doing. The consequences though, are you prepared then to go home and get up an hour earlier tomorrow and do your homework? Are you prepared to not be allowed out for the rest of the week? So when you measure that 1 hour compared to all the time you're going to miss with your friends, are you prepared to deal with the consequences of making that decision? Okay? And the third question is, does this decision feel right to me? Okay? So when you switch off all the noise that's going on around you, you stop listening to your friends and you say, okay, what are the consequences? This, and this. Oh, am I prepared to do that? And does it feel right? Does it feel right to me to make this decision? Okay? Because it's all well and good listening to what everybody else thinks is the right thing to do, but they don't have to deal with your consequences. They don't have to go home and deal with the shit that you're going to deal with now after making this decision. They don't have to do that, but you do. So does it feel right to you to make that decision? Okay? Now, was there anything else? Oh yeah. One added little extra thing. There's also consequences for the things that you don't do. Okay? So for me, I'll give you an example for me, okay? I decided this summer that I was going to plough into getting this work done, okay? What I chose not to do was keep up my fitness regime, okay? So I decided I'm not going to spend that hour and a half going for my jog and preparing food and doing all of this. I'm going to spend that extra time in the office getting this program together and doing what I need to be doing for this, okay? So the consequences for my actions was, the program came together, it all pieced together, it was brilliant. The consequences of what I didn't do was that my fitness came right down, my weight went up, and my body is not in the state it was in a couple of months ago. So there is consequences for the things that you do, but there's also consequences for the things that you don't do. And you have to make sure that you're okay with dealing with the consequences of the things that you don't do as well. Okay? Now, I didn't balance that up at the start of that, and I'm now going, oh, you know, didn't think of the consequences, really should have thought that through. So that has been coming up for me personally. So I'm having to rethink now, how am I going to find that balance now? Okay? So 3 questions to ask yourself. What are the consequences of making this decision? 2, am I prepared to deal with the consequences as well as the decision? And 3, does making this decision feel right to me? Okay? If all else fails and those 3 questions don't get you to the decision you want to make, I watched a brilliant TED Talk of how to make hard decisions. And the one question, the go-to question that I ask myself if I'm finding it hard to make a decision is, who do I want to be? Okay? So watch that TED Talk if you haven't seen it. It's brilliant. Have a great